elected because he was a saint. Donald Trump was elected because he believes in the Constitution. He didn't have to do this job. I wanted you to know that about 3 years ago, and this I'd like everybody to kind of hear, even in the back. About 3 years ago, a group of generals came to me, and it was explained to me they were ready to conduct a coup d'etat. They were ready to move Barack Obama from office with military force. And then a few weeks later, I got another call and said that they were reconsidering. You know why they were reconsidering?
No, why?
Because they talked to Donald Trump. And Trump agreed that he would run. And they agreed that if he would run, they would conduct their coup d'etat as a legitimate process, rooting out the traitors within government. And that pact between the military and Donald Trump has held. As we've been interpreting and watching, and Alex has been following QAnon, QAnon is military intelligence and close to Trump. And the intelligence we're getting that we've explained on InfoWars really is a lot of the inside script. Now, everybody says Donald Trump is going to lose, he's going to be out of office, he's going to be impeached. You watch CNN, MSNBC, they're throwing a party today, and all the 20 people watching them across the nation are very enthused. Donald Trump will not be removed from office. He will not be removed from office. And in the counterattack he's going to launch, one or two facts that could change everything. Get a report from Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, who details the corruption within the Department of Justice. Donald Trump is right. Maybe we should tear down the FBI building and start over again. And if you take a look at the depth of this corruption, it's pervasive. Since George H.W. Bush, the bureaucrats who have stayed, including these SES bureaucrats who are there mostly permanently, they're globalists. They don't believe in America anymore. They think they're smarter than America, smarter than the Founding Fathers. We ought to revise the Constitution. There's a very simple word that describes what they are. Traitors. Traitors. It's a capital crime. And I want to predict to you here today that when the tables turn, Donald Trump will be invoking military tribunals, and even Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are going to be facing treason charges.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and let us see who's here while we get started. Hello to Lisa. Thanks for being first. Bobby Smith. Hello, Bobby. Kayla, welcome. And all lurkers, welcome. Please join the chat. This is your chat. This is going to be our first episode of the Deep State Diaries, an exploration. We're going to be covering things that seem to have fallen by the wayside. And many of you are coming from the very disgusting Delphi murders community. and that's fine. And what you're going to learn is that there's something bigger than Delphi, and that something is a plague in our world, and something that I believe Delphi was a substantial part of. Um, it's not an easy discussion. Um, there's not a lot of drama in it, so many of you may not be able to keep up with a drama-free environment. But I know what they don't want us to talk about. So, how does the dark web influence human and sex trafficking? What security implementations are involved in the dark web? This is directly from the National Science Foundation website. This paper is exploring the connection between human trafficking and the dark web. It also looks at the different variations as to how people are trafficked and who is more likely to be trafficked. Surveys that were conducted is to mainly see current knowledge of everyday people on what they personally knew about the connection between trafficking and the dark web. There are a lot of things that go on in this world. Many things happen in open spaces. However, many things also happen behind closed doors. For the things that happen in open spaces or in the public eye, those things are well under scrutiny from public. But there are things that happen behind closed doors, specifically things that we don't like to talk about. Things like sex trafficking, child pornography, gambling addiction, drug addiction, many more things that we don't want to talk about because it's not comfortable to talk about. One of the things that we don't talk about today specifically is trafficking and sex trafficking, as well as how people are put into those situations and what people are exploited. One example as to how some people are exploited is through grooming as a child and the sharing of illicit and illegal child sexual abuse material. Many people know about what human trafficking is and what sex trafficking is, but I wanted to know, do they know that it can also be linked to the dark web, and that it can also be in plain sight, what we see online every single day? The main issue in regard to human trafficking and sex trafficking is the lack of proper information into how it may be carried out online as well as being carried out in person. A few key reasons is that it's not well known, or it's known, but the actuality of an everyday person witnessing and knowing that it's human trafficking is very small. Another key part is that the dark web is getting more involved with assuring that anyone can be trafficked, and payment verification processes using cryptocurrency and the evasiveness of the dark web through its complex algorithm in hiding the user's IP addresses. There is also a link that exists with the reasons as to why some people are trafficked more than the average everyday person. The definition for human trafficking in this paper is not limited to what type. but understanding the links that it has with trafficking victims and how it impacts on a societal level of what is actually happening in the world of trafficking. Interviews with the FBI Buffalo Field Office. For the interviews with the FBI in Buffalo Field Office, I will be conducting them with an FBI agent and staff operations specialists who handle cases dealing with trafficking and crimes against children. The team that they are on covers a wide array of crimes in the area that it serves. They will be providing insight on what they have encountered so far in their career and what they know about interactions on the dark web and other human trafficking tactics. Literature reviews. This section will be focusing on the documented methodologies previously unknown to myself about the security measures that a particular dark web browser, Tor, utilizes. This will explain why dark web websites are hard to find, track, and prosecute in the eye of the law. It will also include research about reports of human trafficking and a few links between trafficking in various degrees of exploitation and how the dark web might be developing a new market to traffic humans on. Trafficking is not only limited to moving people away from their native habitats, but also includes the motives of the person doing the trafficking and the possible motives of the person being trafficked. User surveys and many interviews. I have also conducted user surveys in 3 different focus groups: everyday citizens, law enforcement, specialists, and anti-trafficking. The results will hopefully yield some perspective of what trafficking is and what is the dark web with simple questions asked in the everyday citizen survey. The specialist survey is taking information that specialists provide on the demographics of trafficking victims and other metrics. Law enforcement survey will be accessing various areas in the Hampton Roads area and what each police department has encountered in their career. This interview was conducted on September 24th, 2020 by Kelly Tino Williams, interviewing Special Agent Randy Garver and Staff Operations Specialist Kimberly Smith. These 2 interviewees are both part of the Violent Crime Squad in the Buffalo Field Office and cover 5 counties, and it is the headquarters for 12 additional counties in the Western New York region. I worked alongside Special Agent Garver and Staff Operations Specialist Smith during my summer 2020 internship with the FBI on various cases in regards to crimes against children involving sexual exploitation and prostitution trafficking. During the interview, I asked specific questions and wrote down key pieces of information that relate to the topic at hand. Information that was referenced in this interview will be explained, and a literature review will be provided about unknown topics in a later section. The interviews do not indicate who said what specific thing due to the fact that it was conducted as a group type interview session, discussion with Special Agent Garver and SOS Smith. Okay, so here we get into the meat. Keep in mind that this paper was written by non-native English speakers. There have been 7 or 8 cases. How many people through your career have been trafficked in the cases that you have worked? There have been 7 or 8 cases in the last couple of years based out of the Buffalo Field Office. But there is no putting a specific number on how many we come across. A lot of trafficking victims that we come across do not want to be identified as victims and refuse to cooperate sometimes. So, as Randy said, there might be a case where we have 5 to 10 victims, but there are actually is a lot more, but we can't locate because they're out of state or no longer with that pimp or refuse to cooperate. So it really is hard to quantify that number. Mainly depends on a case by case basis. And on average, there are about 10 girls per case, and there might be 2 cases a year, and that changes from year to year. Remember, this is just Buffalo. The majority of girls that are involved with trafficking are not being trafficked. They have drug problems, and in exchange, they are paying for that with their bodies. There can also be people from here, Buffalo, but are doing it in the city. They could be doing it in Las Vegas. It also depends on if this case takes place in a larger city like New York or Washington, D.C., which may have higher levels of trafficking due to its dense and large population size. So a city like Buffalo would not be seeing high or similar levels to that of mega cities. What methodologies have you seen people trafficked online or in person? Human trafficking with adults mainly takes place offline. However, a lot nowadays takes place online. Some people, specifically women, get into trafficking through drug addiction itself, and they are linked to pimps that pays them money to have sex with clients so they can afford the drugs that they want. A lot of sites that engage in human trafficking can easily be found on ClearNet, the regular internet that everyone has access to. There are also different types of pimps that can persuade girls to stay with them. A lot of the girls get involved through survival sex. Some are runaways, and some have drug habits. The pimp then seeks out advertisements that some of those girls post online, and they offer them travel, shelter, and protection. 2 different styles of pimps are the Romeo pimp, who will romance the girl and make it seem like it is wonderful and will not make you do anything that you don't want to do. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the gorilla pimps, who keeps the girl there through violence, threats against her family, as well as threats of force. So they either have developed a bond along with a bond with the Romeo pimps, or a trauma bond with the gorilla pimps. Have you had to work on the dark web for sanctioned work-related purposes, and what did they yield? No. We physically haven't worked the dark web. However, the majority of cases that require the FBI to go on the dark web usually come from headquarters, Quantico, Virginia, and they send the field office any relevant information to carry out the case on our end. We haven't seen a lot of trafficking on the dark web. A lot of pimps and drug users are not sophisticated enough to use and recruit on the dark web. They already have a lot of advertisements that are on commercial prostitution ClearNet sites like Babylon, Backpage, Craigslist, Facebook, Airbnb, and Twitter. Is there a substantial amount of child abuse, sexual exploitation on the dark web from what you've encountered in your work? There are tons of illicit information and images and videos of how to groom a child, how to hide the abuse of a child, how to lube the child, just tons of manuals about different ways to exploit the child. And once one goes down, another one is put up. There's also child sex tourism, where you have people who can go overseas and exploit children there, so they do not necessarily need to access the dark web to do so. Is there a way to prevent these types of sites from existing, or is it difficult to manage? Elaborate a bit more on this. Are there non-dark web websites that are used for sex trafficking and or child sexual abuse as an alternative? There are chat rooms like Magic Kingdom, Playpen, and Hurt Me. A lot of it is just child pornography. There are rape videos of toddlers, and a lot of the chat rooms require that someone share child pornography images or videos to get access to the group itself. These sites thrive off of cryptocurrency, so tracking the money trail is hard and is very difficult to manage because it is not necessarily regulated by a governing body. A lot of these sites are not managed by U.S. citizens. are companies. They are Russian, Serbian, Eastern Europe, Southwest Asian, and not subject to U.S. law. The only way they would be regulated if the country puts filters on the internet restricting or banning these foreign sites. The main social media websites that we use daily various ways that someone may be trafficked. There was a recent conspiracy or hoax where they thought that a company, Wayfair, was selling girls online. But that's how some things are coded. Those traffickers work off coded messages that they put out in newspapers and online. So if you're looking for the right thing, you will find it. What is the dark web? Who made it? What is Tor? The actuality of the dark web is not hard to understand. The dark web or darknet is similar in functionality to the regular internet we use every day. We log on to a web browser that has been connected to the internet in order to access the information that we need. Where it differs is the fact that the dark web is used or mainly utilized for illicit and illegal activity. Things such as child pornography, drugs, weapons, and other illicit material are bought, sold, and traded on the dark web. Presently, there is a known way to access the dark web, which is through the web browser called Tor. Tor, the concept of Tor, was originally developed in 1995 by the U.S. Naval Research Lab for personal use by the Navy. Commonly referred to as onion routing, it was developed as a way for secure and private communication that hides the identities of those using the system. Cybersyn then started working on the Tor, or the Onion Routing project, similar to the NRL project, but for widespread use for the masses. The Tor browser did not come about until 2008 to aid in helping non-technically savvy users to use the service that was once difficult to understand by everyday people. Although Tor is the most notable dark web host, a software called the Freenet, which is an anonymous peer-to-peer network that allows users to share files and search things up on their service anonymously, similar to how Tor allows users to browse anonymously. Freenet was developed by a 2000 student attending Edinburgh University named Ian Clark. The darknet web browser was also based off the level of that specific user and gave more access to the dark web if they had a higher status. Users of the software have also allocated and allowed the software to use both bandwidth and disk space that is then taken and integrated into the Freenet network. In other words, the sharing of one's disk space and bandwidth turns part of their machine into the Freenet itself and makes it a server where information is stored locally. Sounds similar to Bitcoin mining, doesn't it? The original concept of the dark web was to allow the users to surf the web without restrictions and censorship found in many of today's web browsers, as well as certain countries placing filters on certain websites, usually from outside perspective of their country, or from the outside their prospective country. It allowed these countries involved in the Arab Spring and under civil unrest in the 2000s and 2010s to document and share to the world what was going on in their countries. Let's take a look for a moment at this image here. Locations of human trafficking situations in 2019. Notice the patterns. Notice the patterns here. Okay, let's get back to reading. I want to finish. Okay. But the dark web then turned from its freedom of censorship and information sharing ways, although that might have comprised federal governments and treason, and started moving towards trafficking drugs and humans, child pornography hosting, and other illegal content. In 2015, the Federal Bureau of Investigation briefly held control over one of the largest dark websites that held possession of child pornography. From this investigation, they have reportedly found and located 1,300 persons who have visited the site while under FBI control. The site that was taken down was called Playpen. While the FBI held control of the site, they were able to unmask the hidden IP addresses of the persons who had visited the sites, which in turn gave them the location of what countries they were from. They included, but were not limited to, the US, Chile, Greece, and the UK. How the FBI got into the Tor network and took control over the site is through code that has been unreleased as of today. The FBI has been ordered to release the code by the Washington State Federal Court, but have presumptively dropped the child porn case to preserve the code and to exploit and potentially catch future pedophiles. Interesting, isn't it? Don't you think that we are under a sting operation, largest sting operation in human history? We'll be getting back to that. The security measures that are in place in the Tor browser must maintain anonymity for the user, which is the main reason that it draws in its users. The Tor network works by relaying messages, files to other computers or servers that mask and constantly change IP address of the person requesting the data. Communication is also held. Okay, let's take a look at this. Anonymous as well. So any chat room communication does not display any personal information. In figure 2, I have shown how the Tor network works on the basic level. User A has a Tor network downloaded onto their computer and they are searching for information on Tor. Let's say you're looking for a YouTube, which is not a Tor specific website, and they do not want their IP address tracked and recorded. So they use Tor to watch YouTube videos. When they query or search for YouTube on Tor, their search is routed through multiple computers. Also known in figure 1 as Tor nodes, in order to mask or change a user A's IP address while they are using Tor. Throughout the use of the Tor browser, user A's connection is secure and encrypted until it finally gets to the destination and is decrypted and left unsecure in this case because it is not a website that was designed specifically for Tor. The main reason why sites that are not specifically designed for Tor are not secure is because they use the HTTP protocols. HTTP protocols use various servers that reconstruct documents or websites that are then displayed to users. Tor solely works best for secure websites following HTTPS, TLS, and SSL protocol because these types of searches tend to utilize end-to-end encryption. Specialized sites that are made and designed for Tor end in .onion sites that have to be directly accessed by typing in the site name and can only be found on Tor. These onion sites are where illegal activity and takes place, and the promotion of drugs, child pornography, and human trafficking takes place. Okay, once again, let's look at this. Remember, we're talking about the troll farm here. We are talking about human trafficking, sex trafficking. We're talking about the selling of images. We're talking about the troll farm covering up the murders of Abby and Libby. Human trafficking links to the dark web. I want you to look at this number here. Look at the proportion here. Please look. That's about 75% female because of the unknowns. 75% female here. In 2017, there was a news article written by Jessica Formoso of Fox 5 New York that reports on instances of trafficking links to the dark web. In July of 2017, there was a British model named Chloe Ayling working in Milan, Italy, where she claimed to have been kidnapped, and it was confirmed to have been up for sale on the dark web. The report details, although they are indeed instances where people are trafficked on the dark web similar to the Chloe Ayling case, the trafficking that takes place on there is usually just a small percentage of overall trafficking, particularly in the US. Most trafficking happens offline in the US, most likely because of very little to no technological savvy skills that these traffickers may or may not possess. They also reiterate that trafficking can be found on the cleanest sites like Backpage and Craigslist, even today. Trafficking is not only limited to the widely infamous sex trafficking, but labor, as in slave labor, and child sex trafficking also takes place. In California, there are widespread Asian immigrants who are smuggled into the country and made to work in sweatshops, massage parlors, and prostitution to pay off their smuggling fees to the ones who got them into the U.S. Same with Latin America. Trafficking also does not have to involve someone leaving the country. It can involve someone across local and state borders and is not always just adults who are trafficked. In an article written by Ashley Kirkland of Fox 24 WGXA, reports that there has been a ring of child sex traffickers across Georgia in Savannah, Augusta, Columbus, and Atlanta in a combined FBI and GBI investigation. Sound familiar? They note that these type of traffickers use a similar system to that of a Romeo pimp, in the sense that they are grooming the child or building a trusting rapport with the child to later exploit and manipulate them once they have them in their possession. These type of grooming techniques are used on any and every platform a trafficker can get their hands on. Instant messaging like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, chat rooms like Omegle, and other websites, dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, and plenty of fish. Hello? Are we listening? Don't worry. People are more worried about watching drama channels than actually understanding what the fuck we're dealing with. Demographics for the year 2019 and reported trafficking victims, sourced from the Polaris Project, shows that the majority of trafficking victims are women. There is no definitive data for the ages that trafficking begins at, and most of those who were trafficked are unknown in terms of their citizenship or what country they originate from. Lots of unknowns here. Have you noticed? Look at this one. Unknown is green. Look at here. Nationality, unknown is green. Do you know what the dark web is? I guarantee you this is in verse. People think they know what the dark web is. People do not know what the dark web is. They do not know this link. They do not know this particular link. Modern trafficking does incorporate the online aspect of how traffickers find their victims and traffic them for selfish profit and exploitation. There's also the still old the old aspects of trafficking that takes place offline, with an estimate of 20 million victims of trafficking per year. All right. Remember, this is a survey. What percentage do you think human trafficking, sex trafficking takes place offline? 35%. How many have you seen instances where someone has been trafficked in real life? No. Why? Because it's online, because it takes place online. People don't understand. Their heads are up their asses. You see this? What percentage do you think takes place online? 25 to 50%? No. This is more like it. 75%. 75%. See, people don't know. People don't know. That's what this survey is telling us. Do you know of any dark web browsers like Tor? No. See what I mean? They don't know. People don't know. Okay. We're going to skip over this. Human trafficking is still on the rise. Well, let's back it up a little. Let's start here. Based off of the surveys of both the public and law enforcement, the conclusion is that, let's see, let me get it big for you guys. Based off the response of civilians and law enforcement, the internet has fueled an increase in accessibility of traffickers for human trafficking. It has also created another market as to where people can now easily shop and sell potential victims to a wider clientele. And the largest type of human trafficking is sex trafficking. Although it is geared towards trafficking people who are 18 years and older, bullshit, most likely due to most traffickers not wanting to deal with minors if they don't have to. Human trafficking is still on the rise and evolving. The way and how it takes place are slowly but surely shifting more and more into the online sphere. The surmounting evidence that although a small number of traffickers now are trafficking now takes place on the dark web, there are still other outlets that do not need to be connected to the dark web to access trafficking victims. Remember the clear web. The majority of the public knows about trafficking and about what the dark web is, but there needs to be more education on how Tor technologies work and the reasons behind why some people use that browser. Okay. Like I said, here we're dealing with non-native speakers. Okay. Now begins our exploration of the phenomena known as Q. So I decided we will go back to the beginning. What is Q? What is Q? Hillary Rodham Clinton extradition already in motion, effective yesterday, with several countries in the case of cross-border run. Passport approved to be flagged, effective 10:30, 12:01 a.m. Expect massive riots organized in defiance and others fleeing the U.S. U.S. Marines will conduct the operation while National Guard is activated. Proof check. Locate a National Guard member and ask if activated for duty 10:30 across most major cities. Mockingbird. HRC detained, not arrested yet. Where is Huma? Follow Huma. This has nothing to do with Russia yet. Why does POTUS surround himself with generals? What is military intelligence? Why go around the three-letter agencies? What Supreme Court case allows for the use of military versus congressional assembled and approved agencies? Who has the ultimate authority over our branches of military without approval conditions unless 90 plus in wartime conditions? What is the military code? Where is AW being held? Why? POTUS will not go on TV to address the nation. POTUS must isolate himself to prevent negative optics. POTUS knew removing criminal rogue elements as a first step was essential to free and pass legislation. Who has access to everything classified? Do you believe HRC, Soros, Obama, etc. have more power than Trump? Fantasy. Whoever controls the office of the presidency controls this great land. Notice there's a misspell. Or is it? Presidency. They never believed for a moment they, Democrats and Republicans, would lose control. This is not a R versus D battle. Why did Soros donate all his money recently? Why would he place all his funds in a RC? Mockingbird, 10/30/17. God bless fellow patriots. Open your eyes. It finally came out that Rod Bob were the key players in the uranium scandal. Don't you think POTUS would be tweeting about removal given clear conflict? Why did POTUS meet Bob under the cover of FBI direct interview? Bob is unable to serve as direct per the law. Gowdy comments on Comey. History will. POTUS has everything. Not everyone is corrupt. Fewer than you think. Follow Huma. Operation Mockingbird. Priority to clean out the bad actors to unite people behind the America First agenda. Many in our government worship Satan. Not about Republicans versus Democrats at this stage. Where is HRC? Why is the NG called up across 12 cities? Trust in your president. God bless patriots. So here we have some things, right? We have multiple mentions of National Guard. We have multiple mentions of mockingbird. Okay, mockingbird here, mockingbird here. Multiple mentions of 10:30. 10:30. 10:30. Now, some of us come here to drop crumbs, just crumbs. POTUS is 100% isolated. Any discussion suggesting he's even a target is false. POTUS will not be addressing nation on any of these issues as people begin to be indicted and must remain neutral for pure optical reasons. To suggest this is a plan is false and should be common sense. So let's stop here. Let's read that again. Now, here's where we have to become somewhat of a conspiracy theorist. This is where the discussion takes a left-hand turn. For those of us familiar with the entire corpus of these posts here, which I am, in time it became apparent that time references in these posts are highly metaphorical, not literal, not linear. This entire body of work is somewhat fractal in nature. So considering that, let's analyze the statement here. POTUS will not be addressing nation on any of these issues as people begin to be indicted and must remain neutral for pure optical reasons. So let me ask you this. For those in the chat, please chime in if you know the answer to this. Okay. I guess let me. It's so difficult. This is a very difficult job. Okay. Look at the date of this post, will you? October 29, 2017. Okay. This post was made. Okay. Remember, POTUS will not be addressing nation on any of these issues as people begin to be indicted and must remain neutral for pure optical reasons. Question is, when was Epstein arrested? Okay. July 6, 2019. He literally lasted 1 month. Okay, he literally lasted 1 month. Okay. So a year and a half after this post, Epstein arrested. Okay. Here's another question. Um, Ghislaine Maxwell, date of arrest. July 2020. Okay. So, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein is arrested, murdered, or killed within a month. A year later, 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell arrested. Okay. Focus on military intelligence, state secrets, and why that might be used versus any three-letter agency. And I mean any: FBI, CIA, DOD, DOJ, NSA. What Supreme Court decision opened the door for a sitting president to activate what must be showed? Why is POTUS surrounded by generals? Again, there are a lot more good people than bad, so have faith. This was a hostile takeover from an evil, corrupt network of players, not just Democrats. Once again, Mockingbird is referenced. Sit back and enjoy the show. Okay? Follow the money is key. What is Pelosi's net worth, by one way of example? Why, coincidentally, is her memory apparently going? Cover for possible future indictment to plead what? What if John M. never had surgery and that was a cover for a future out if needed against prosecution? Why did Soros transfer his bulk of public funds to a nonprofit? Note, this doesn't include massive slush funds that are pulled by several high-ups. Why did Soros' son have several meetings with Canadian Prime Minister, and how is that related to Clinton's? Can you rely on being able to board a plane and fly away? Why is MS-13 a priority? Nobody got this. Could people pay such gangs to kill opponents, and why how to insulate against exposure? The truth is mind-blowing and cannot be fully exposed. Remember, we're talking about MS-13. As many are thinking from one point of view, US only, this evil is embedded globally. US is the first domino, have faith. Okay. Now you'll see here, this was posted here. Okay. Notice. You see what's happened? You see how these two here are combined to then give us this one. With some alterations, okay? So let's look here. What's different? Okay. Okay, now here this has moved. Okay, this has moved to down here. You go back this way, follow the money, it's the key. What is Pelosi's net worth? Right here. There we go. This here. So interesting and still relevant here. Remember that in this collection, time is irrelevant. Time is circular or fractal. It's not linear. Why wasn't HRC prosecuted for the emails? Put simply, Obama ultimately okayed by using the non-government email address to communicate with Clinton. Obama also had an alias, along with each of his cabinet members. Therefore, indicting HRC would lead to indicting Obama and his cabinet, etc., which could never happen. Remember, he lied about knowing, but that ultimately came out in the dump. Poof. Okay. I'm not saying I'll make any more sense out of this than anyone else. Reorganization is underway and happening. Coincidence? Senate Republicans pushing for Fed judge confirmations last week. Okay. Interesting here. Projection. Democrats can't lose control over the black population. At some point, the Great Awakening will occur whereby these false local national black leaders are corrupt and paid off to help keep the black population poor and in need. Democrats form the Confederate States against freeing the slaves. Democrats form the KKK. HRC's mentor is who? What happens if the truth about Haiti is released? Do Democrats lose the majority of the vote? Through the looking glass, they rely on the MSM, mainstream media, to keep the narrative going, but tech is entrenching on their controls. They missed this in 2016 and desperately attempting to censor now due to the CIA cash infusions. Okay. This starts to get very rich. It gets thick, okay? Dense. Remember, the FBI and military intelligence have an open investigation into the Clinton Foundation. Why did Comey drop this? Who was the FBI director during the Haiti crisis? How many kids disappeared? How much money sent to the Clinton Foundation under disguise of Haiti relief went to Haiti? Do you remember the boys on the tracks? What countries donated big money to the Clinton Foundation and why? How much was owed by accepting? When she lost, how would this be repaid? Okay, now listen. This is complicated and I don't know the answers to a lot of this. But let's take it piecemeal here. Okay, first, what countries donated big money to the Clinton Foundation and why? And in return, how much was owed? How much did the Clintons owe back? to these countries by accepting this money. And ultimately, when she lost, she should have never lost. When she lost, how would this be repaid? What did Obama do with cash just prior to leaving office? Repayment to those who donated favors, access, and the instruction, dig. Okay. Dig. Now, let's talk about Haiti for a minute, okay? Haiti was devastated in 2021. Okay. Haiti was devastated. Um, thousands dead. Thousands dead in 2021 from an earthquake. Um, and now, okay, let's talk about now. So back to 2021, there was an extreme catastrophe, I would call it, over in Haiti. Uh, if you had seen any of the footage, it was just unbelievable, totally unbelievable. And and I ask you now, what's going on now? Okay, what's going on now in Haiti? Remember this post here, let's look at the date, October 29th, 2017. Okay. So you've had 5 years and more of crisis in Haiti. Pardon me. You've had assassination, gang wars, uh, Haiti is in all out catastrophe mode. So this is just prior to all of that. Okay. let's go back to this. Where is it? Did I lose it? Okay, yeah, it's up here. There. Because this here is very interesting in that we know this was posted in 2017, late 2017. Okay, we've had major upset to Haiti since. I would venture to say weather warfare, as well as provocated civil unrest. Dig. Again, good people were forced into bed with this evil under personal and family threats. Could you live with yourself helping to cover up such evil, despicable acts if given a safe way out? These people worship Satan. Some openly show it. Troll farm. Key. In other words, this is a key. Okay, this is a key. Military intelligence versus your three-letter agencies. No approval or congressional oversight, which means no political bullshittery. State secrets upheld under Supreme Court. And then we have some rhetoricals. Who is the commander-in-chief of the military? Well, we know that. Under what article can the president impose military takeover investigations for the three-letter agencies? What conditions must present itself? Why is this so important? Who surrounds POTUS? They lost this very important power, the one area of the government not corrupt and directly serves POTUS. Now, remember when I said that time is irrelevant in these postings. Military intelligence, referenced above, is the absolute biggest inside drop this board will ever receive. Now think about why Antifa plays right into the plan. Always ahead. Good guys are winning. Okay. Military intelligence, referenced above, is the absolute biggest inside drop this board will ever receive. Okay, now this is a little unusual for this entire collection. It's titled as key, okay? Referenced here as the biggest inside drop the board will ever receive. Key. Military intelligence. Okay? No approval or congressional oversight. State secrets upheld. Who is a commander-in-chief? Under what article can the president impose military takeover or military intelligence takeover investigations for the three-letter agencies? What conditions must present itself? Why is this so very important? Who surrounds POTUS? They lost this very important power, the one area of government not corrupt and directly serves POTUS. Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, take note of this. Okay. Washington crossing the Delaware? Is that what it is? Now, this is interesting here. Psi F Psi F Okay. See, this is rather large, but interesting. Psi F. Military intelligence. What is state secrets? And how upheld in the Supreme Court? What must be completed to engage military intelligence over the other three-letter agencies? What must occur to allow for civilian trials? Why is this relevant? What was Flynn's background? Why is this relevant? Why did Adam R., NSA, meet Trump privately without authorization? Let's start with these two. Does POTUS know where the bodies are buried? Well, I would say yes. Does POTUS have the goods on most bad actors? I would say yes. Do you forget the infamous photos? Trump did rub shoulders with Hollywood, correct? Was Trump asked to run for president? Why and by who? Well, hold on.
Trump wasn't elected because he was a saint. Donald Trump was elected because he believes in the Constitution. He didn't have to do this job. I wanted you to know that about 3 years ago, and this I'd like everybody to kind of hear, even in the back. About 3 years ago, a group of generals came to me, and it was explained to me they were ready to conduct a coup d'etat. They were ready to move Barack Obama from office with military force. And then a few weeks later, I got another call and said that they were reconsidering. You know why they were reconsidering? No, why? Because they talked to Donald Trump.
Well, according to Jerome Corsi, he was asked to run for president by a group of generals. HRC was next in line. The election was supposed to be rigged. Did good people prevent the rigging? I don't think so. I think that there was an overwhelming surge of voters that were not anticipated. Why did POTUS form a panel to investigate? Has POTUS ever made a statement that did not become proven as true or fact? What is POTUS in control of? What is the one organization left that isn't corrupt? Why does the military play such a vital role? Why is POTUS surrounded by highly respected generals? Who guards former presidents? Why is that relevant? Who guards HRC? Why is Antifa allowed to operate? Why hasn't the MB been classified as a terrorist organization? What happens if Soros-funded operations get violent and engage in domestic terrorism? Well, they do. What happens if mayors, police comms, chiefs do not enforce the law? What authority does POTUS have specifically over the Marines? Why is this important? What is Mueller's background? Military? Was Trump asked to run for president with assurances made to prevent tampering? How is POTUS always 5 steps ahead? Who is helping? Well, let's do a little check here. Let's do this together. Robert Mueller was nominated by President George W. Bush and became the 6th director of the FBI on September 4th, 2001. Born in New York City, Mr. Mueller grew up outside of Philadelphia. He graduated from Princeton University in 1966 and later earned a master's degree in international relations at New York University. After college, he joined the U.S. Marine Corps, where he served as an officer for 3 years, leading a rifle platoon on the 3rd Marine Division in Vietnam. He's the recipient of the Bronze Star, 2 Navy Commendation Medals, the Purple Heart, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry. Following his military service, Mr. Mueller earned a law degree from the University of Virginia Law School in '73 and served on the Law Review. After completing his education, Mr. Mueller worked as a litigator in San Francisco until 1976. He then served for 12 years in the U.S. Attorney's offices, first in the Northern District of California, San Francisco, where he rose to be chief of its criminal division. In 1982, he moved to Boston as an assistant U.S. attorney, where he investigated and prosecuted major financial fraud, terrorist, and public corruption cases, as well as narcotics conspiracies and international money launderers. After serving as a partner at the Boston law firm of Hill and Barlow, Mr. Mueller returned to public service. In 1989, he served in the U.S. Department of Justice as an assistant to Attorney General Richard Thornborough. The following year, he took charge of its criminal division. In 1991, he was elected Fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers. In 1993, Mr. Mueller became a partner at Boston's Hale and Dorr, specializing in complex white-collar crime litigation. He again returned to public service in 1995 as a senior litigator in the homicide section of the District of Columbia United States Attorney's Office. In 1998, Mr. Mueller was named U.S. Attorney in San Francisco and held that position until 2001. Mr. Mueller and his wife Anne have 2 daughters. Mr. Mueller was director of the FBI from September 4th, 2001 to September 4th, 2013. What is Mueller's background? Now we know. Military? Yes. U.S. Marine Corps. Was Trump asked to run for president with assurances made to prevent tampering? Okay. Okay, let's do this. For all of us doomers, there are more good people than bad. The wizards and warlocks, Troll Farm, will not allow another satanic, evil POS control our country. Troll Farm. Realize Soros, Clinton's, Obama, Putin, etc. are all controlled by 3 families. Okay, then we have some curious numerical formations here, which could be interpreted as dates, but also could not. 11-3 Podesta indicted, 10-6 Huma indicted. Okay. Okay, so how many Podestas do we have? This is from November 1st, 2017. On Monday, the first round of indictments were unsealed as part of special counsel Robert Mueller's ongoing investigations into possible collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government during the 2016 election. While the arrest of Paul Manafort and Richard Gates dominated headlines across a wide array of media, conservative news outlets focus on what appeared to be a subplot of the investigation: that the prominent DC lobbying firm, the Podesta Group, is now a target of Mueller's probe. As former chair of Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign, John Podesta found himself in the spotlight after his breached email account became fodder for conspiracy theories among some dark corners of the internet. When news of the special counsel's investigations into the Podesta Group became public, his brother, Tony Podesta, decided to step down as head of firm, leading renewed speculation over the nature of the charges. With the Podestas back in the spotlight, the Daily Beast politics reporter Betsy Woodruff joins Takeaway to explain what's being investigated. Okay. (11-6) Huma indicted. Well, are we talking about here Hillary Clinton's aide? We remember the Anthony Weiner. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if these are dates or not. Okay. However, I think we're close to I mean, it's pretty much face value for the most part. Like because look at what's mentioned next is Manafort. Okay, so we're talking about this group of people. Manafort was placed into Trump's camp as well as others. The corruption that will come out is so serious that deals must be cut for people to walk away. Otherwise, 70% of elected politicians would be in jail. You are seeing it already begin. A deep cleaning is occurring, and the prevention and defense of pure evil is occurring on a daily basis. They never thought they were going to lose control of the presidency, not just Democrats. And they thought they had control since making past mistakes. Okay? Now remember, these dates don't make sense in these documents. Get the popcorn. Friday and Saturday will deliver on the MAGA promise. POTUS knows he must clean house in order to free up and demonstrate who has authority in order to pass important legislation. This was always the priority. Remember, AG Sessions cannot look like an impartial player that is out to get all former Obama team members, as we need him for other important work. All will come into focus. For anyone to think POTUS is not in control is kidding themselves. Also, he's 100% insulated with zero risk of impeachment. Well, that certainly seems to be factual, because try their damnedest. It never happened, right? Why does Obama travel in advance of POTUS to foreign locations? Well, I did some fact checking on that, and it actually pans out. It actually pans out. So, yes, happens. Why? Well, why is it relevant also? Focus on the power of POTUS as it relates to Marines. How can military intelligence be applied to prosecute bad actors and avoid corrupt agencies and judges? Biggest drop on poll. Above is the reason why the shills are sliding. In case you didn't know, shills log and send back to ASF for instruction. They use a 5-pronged prepackaged injection. One post auto-generates 4 more at random designated times. Common drive of posts they all tap into. Since they misjudge the influence of the MSM, they are aggressively looking to censor throughout the major platforms in exchange for CIA slush funds and WW access for expansion of said networks. Everything they do has been forecasted and prepared for. Okay. On that, okay, I want to make a comment here. Let's see, because this has been breaking news this week. If I can, pull this up. Okay. I will have to find this for you. Read it. Okay. Here we're going to read from this is from Reuters, and the date of this is June 14th, 10 days ago. Okay. And I think you're going to understand what is being referenced here in this highlighted portion. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. military launched a secret campaign to counter what it perceived as China's growing influence into the Philippines, a nation hit especially hard by the deadly virus. The clandestine operation has not been previously reported. It aimed to sow doubt about the safety and efficacy of vaccines and other life-saving aid that had been supplied by China. A Reuters investigation found through phony internet accounts meant to impersonate Filipinos, trolls. Okay, we're talking about United States contracted troll farms. The military's propaganda efforts morphed into an anti-vax campaign. Social media posts decried the quality of face masks, test kits, and first vaccine that would become available in the Philippines, China's Sinovac inoculation. Reuters identified at least 300 accounts on X, formerly Twitter, that matched descriptions shared by former U.S. military officials familiar with the Philippines operation. Almost all were created in the summer of 2020 and centered on the slogan, China Ang Virus. Okay? After Reuters asked X about the accounts, the social media company removed the profiles, determining that they were part of a coordinated bot campaign based on activity patterns and internal data. The U.S. military's anti-vax effort began in the spring of 2020 and expanded beyond Southeast Asia before it was terminated in mid-2021, Reuters determined. Tailoring the propaganda campaign to local audiences across Central Asia and the Middle East, the Pentagon used a combination of fake social media accounts on multiple platforms, i.e., troll accounts, to spread fear of China's vaccines among Muslims at a time when the virus was killing tens of thousands of people each day. A key part of the strategy amplified the disputed contention that because vaccines sometimes contain pork gelatin, China's shots could be considered forbidden under Islamic law. The military program started under former President Donald Trump and continued months into Joe Biden's presidency. Reuters found even after alarmed social media execs warned the new administration that the Pentagon had been trafficking in COVID misinformation. The Biden White House issued an edict in spring 2021 banning the anti-vax effort, which also disparaged vaccines produced by other rivals. And the Pentagon initiated an internal review, Reuters found. The U.S. military is prohibited from targeting Americans with propaganda bullshit. And Reuters found no evidence the Pentagon's influence operation did so. Spokespeople for Trump and Biden did not respond to requests for comment about the clandestine information. A senior Defense Department official acknowledged the U.S. military engaged in secret propaganda to disparage Chinese vaccine in the developing world, but the official declined to provide details. A Pentagon spokeswoman said the U.S. military, quote, uses a variety of platforms, including social media, to counter those malign influence attacks aimed at U.S. allies and its partners, close quotation. She also noted that China had started a, quote, disinformation campaign to falsely blame the U.S. for the spread of COVID-19, quote. Now, who can you believe in this? Who can you believe? In an email, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that it has long maintained that U.S. government manipulates social media and spreads misinformation. Manila's embassy in Washington did not respond to Reuters' inquiries, including whether it had been aware of the Pentagon operation. A spokesperson for the Philippines Department of Health, however, said that the findings by Reuters deserve to be investigated and heard by the appropriate authorities of the involved countries. Some aid workers in the Philippines, when told of the U.S. military propaganda effort by Reuters, expressed outrage. Briefed on the Pentagon's secret anti-vax campaign by Reuters, some American public health experts also condemned the program, saying it put civilians in jeopardy for potential geopolitical gain. An operation meant to win the hearts and minds, endangered lives, they said. I don't think it's defensible, said Daniel Lucy, an infectious disease specialist at Dartmouth's Geisel School of Medicine. I'm extremely dismayed, disappointed, and disillusioned to hear that the U.S. government would do that, said Lucy, a former military physician who assisted in the response to the 2001 anthrax attacks. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a bit. Quote, it should have been in our interest to get as much vaccine in people's arms as possible, said Greg Treverton, the former chairman of the U.S. National Intelligence Council, which coordinates analysis and strategy of Washington's many spy agencies. What the Pentagon did, Treverton said, crosses a line. Together, the phony accounts used by the military had tens of thousands of followers during the program. Yes, the troll accounts, the troll farm. Reuters could not determine how widely the anti-vax material and other Pentagon-planted disinformation was viewed, or to what extent the post may have caused COVID deaths by dissuading people from getting vaccinated. In the wake of the U.S. propaganda efforts, however, then Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte had grown so dismayed by how few Filipinos were willing to be inoculated, he threatened to arrest people who refused vaccinations. I'll skip ahead a bit. The campaign was also reinforced what one former health secretary called a long-standing suspicion of China, most recently because of the aggressive behavior by Beijing in disputed areas of the South China Sea. Filipinos were unwilling to trust China's Sinovac, which first became available in the country in March of 2021. I'm sure that there are lots of people who died from COVID who did not need to die from COVID, she said. To implement the anti-vax campaign, the DoD overrode strong objections from top U.S. diplomats in Southeast Asia, Reuters found. Sources involved in its planning and execution say the Pentagon, which ran the program through the Military Psychological Operations Center in Tampa, Florida, disregarded collateral impact that such propaganda may have had on innocent Filipinos. Okay. You guys get ready for the good shit. In uncovering the secret U.S. military operation, Reuters interviewed more than 24 current and former U.S. officials, military contractors, social media analysts, and academic researchers. Reporters also reviewed Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram posts, technical data, and documents about a set of fake social media accounts used by the U.S. military, i.e. Troll Farm. Some were active for more than 5 years. Clandestine psychological ops are among the government's most highly sensitive programs. Knowledge of their existence is limited to a small group of people within U.S. intelligence and military agencies. Such programs are treated with special caution because their exposure could damage foreign alliances or escalate conflict with rivals. Okay, we're going to skip ahead a bit. Beijing didn't limit its global influence efforts to propaganda. It announced an ambitious COVID assistance program, which included sending masks, ventilators, and its own vaccines to struggling countries. In May of 2020, Xi announced that the vaccine China was developing would be made available as a global public good and would ensure vaccine accessibility and affordability in developing countries. Washington's plan, however, called Operation Warp Speed, was fucking different because it's all about the Benjamins. It favored inoculating Americans first, and it placed no restrictions on what pharmaceutical companies could charge developing countries for the remaining vaccines not used by the US. The deal allowed the companies to play hardball with developing countries, forcing them to accept high prices. The deal sucked most of the supply out of the global market, Gostin said. The US took a very determined America First approach. To Washington's alarm, China's offers of assistance were tilting the geopolitical playing field across the developing world, including the Philippines, where government faced upwards of 100,000 infections in the early months of the pandemic. Okay, skipping ahead a bit. We didn't do a good job of sharing vaccines with partners, a senior U.S. military officer directly involved in the campaign in Southeast Asia told Reuters. So what was left to us was to throw shade on China's. A spokesperson for Special Ops Command declined to comment. At least 6 senior State Department officials responsible for the region objected to this approach. A health crisis was the wrong fucking time to instill fear and anger through a psychological operation, or PSYOP, they argued. They argued with calls to the Pentagon. We're stooping lower than the Chinese, and we should not be doing that, said a former State Department official for the region. While the Pentagon saw Washington's rapidly diminishing influence in the Philippines as a call to action, the withering partnership led American diplomats to plead for caution. In the past, such opposition from State Department might have proved fatal to the program. Previously in peacetime, the Pentagon needed approval of embassy officials before conducting psychological ops in a country. But in 2019, before COVID first surfaced in full force, then Secretary of Defense Mark Esper signed a secret order that later paved the way for the launch of U.S. military propaganda campaigns. The order elevated the Pentagon's competition with China and Russia to the priority of active combat, enabling commanders to sidestep the State Department when conducting PSYOPs against those adversaries. Didn't you all know that it was a fucking PSYOP from the first days of COVID? And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We're still in that PSYOP. Yes, we are. In the spring of 2020, Special Ops Commander Braga turned to a cadre of psychological warfare soldiers and contractors in Tampa to counter Beijing's COVID efforts. Colleagues say Braga was a longtime advocate of increasing the use of propaganda ops in global competition. In the trailers and squat buildings at the facility on Tampa's MacDill Air Force Base, U.S. military personnel and contractors could use anonymous accounts on Twitter, Facebook, and other social media to spread what became the anti-vax message in the Philippines. The facility remains the Pentagon's clandestine propaganda factory. Psychological warfare has played a role in U.S. military operations for more than 100 years, although it has changed in style and substance over time. Okay? Unlike earlier PSYOP missions, which sought specific tactical advantage on the battlefield, post 9/11 operations hope to create broader change in public opinion across entire regions globally. By 2010, the military began using social media tools, leveraging phony troll accounts to spread the message of sympathetic local voices. Today, the military employs a sprawling ecosystem of social media influencers, front groups, and covertly placed digital advertisements to influence overseas audiences and audiences at home, according to current and former military officials. The Pentagon campaign sought to intensify fears, and as a part of an internal investigation at Twitter, the social media company used IP addresses and browser data to identify more than 150 phony troll accounts that were operated from the troll farm in Tampa, Florida, by the U.S. Central Command and its contractors, according to an internal Twitter document reviewed by Reuters. The Pentagon also covertly spread its messages on Facebook and Instagram, alarming executives at the parent company Meta, who had long been tracking the military accounts, according to former military officials. One military created meme targeting Central Asia showed a pig made out of syringes. According to two people who viewed the image, Reuters found similar posts that trace back to U.S. Central Command. Facebook execs had first approached the Pentagon in summer of 2020, warning the military that Facebook workers had easily identified the military's phony accounts, according to three former U.S. officials and another person familiar with the matter. The government, Facebook argued, was violating Facebook policies by operating the bogus troll accounts and by spreading misinformation. The military argued that many of its fake troll accounts were being used for counterterrorism and asked Facebook not to take down the content, according to two people familiar with the exchange. By the spring of 2021, the National Security Council ordered the military to stop all anti-vaccine messaging. We were told we needed to be pro-vaccine, pro all vaccines, said former senior military officer who helped oversee the program. Even so, Reuters found some anti-vax posts that continued through April. Reuters could not determine why the campaign didn't end immediately. Senior Defense Department official said that those complaints led to an internal review in late 2021. The review intensified the following year, the official said, after a group of academic researchers at Stanford flagged some of the same accounts as pro-Western bots in a public report. The senior defense official said the Pentagon has rescinded parts of ESPER's 2019 order that allowed military commanders to bypass the approval of U.S. ambassadors when waging psychological ops. The rules now mandate that military commanders work closely with U.S. diplomats in the country where they seek to have an impact. The Pentagon's audit concluded that the military's primary contractor handling the campaign was General Dynamics IT. General Dynamics IT. It employed sloppy tradecraft, taking inadequate steps to hide the origin of the fake accounts, said a person with direct knowledge of the review. The review also found that military leaders didn't maintain enough control over its PSYOP contractors. A spokesperson for General Dynamics IT declined to comment. Nevertheless, the Pentagon's clandestine propaganda efforts are set to continue. In an unclassified strategy document last year, top Pentagon generals wrote that the U.S. military could undermine adversaries such as China and Russia using, quote, disinformation spread across social media, false narratives disguised as news, and similar subversive activities to weaken societal trust by undermining the foundations of government. And in February, the contractor that worked on the anti vax campaign, General Dynamics IT, won a $500 million contract. Its mission? To continue providing clandestine influence services for the military. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your troll farm operation program. General Dynamics IT in the Tampa, Florida troll farm PSYOP operation. Again, nevertheless, the Pentagon's clandestine propaganda efforts are set to continue. In an unclassified strategy document last year, top Pentagon officials, generals, wrote that the U.S. military could undermine adversaries such as China, and Russia, using, quote, disinformation spread across social media, false narratives disguised as news, and similar subversive activities to weaken societal trust by undermining the foundations of government. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your U.S. government psychological operations troll farm propaganda campaign. And you think that we don't have a problem in Delphi? Again, looking at your screen, since they misjudged the influence of the mainstream media, they are aggressively looking to censor throughout major platforms. That's what we just read about, ladies and gentlemen. Troll farms. In exchange for CIA slush funds. How about a $500 million contract to General Dynamics IT? Everything they do has been forecasted and prepared for, which is why we know about it. And I think there, ladies and gentlemen, we will leave it for tonight. That article, in case you're interested in it, can be found at Reuters.com from June 14th, 2024, titled Pentagon Ran Secret Anti-Vax Campaign to Undermine China During Pandemic by Chris Bing and Joel Schechman. Now, there will be some who come here and say, it's all a conspiracy theory. This does not exist. It's all been fact checked. It's all been proven wrong. Well, time is our friend. And as time passes, we are proven correct again and again and again. Sandy says, it's legal to propagandize Americans. Legal. Yes, it is. What do you think the entire past 8 years has been? Did you know the Pentagon was built with limestone from Delphi, Indiana? Also, do you know the McCain family used to own the mine in Delphi? Imagine that. What? I did not. I did not, but yes, what I imagine is that the entire Delphi murder scenario is tied to human trafficking, the Dropbox, and the dark web, which is why it's surrounded by a cadre of trolls, local and internet based trolls. People who were part of the situation that led to the deaths of the girls, or people who were part of the situation on the internet that was profiting from the situation that led to the deaths of the girls. And if Delphi is ever solved, the whole house of cards falls down, which is why you have these assholes on the internet trying to kill me, trying to ruin me, trying to discredit the things that I and you say. Welcome in, True Justice. If this all isn't a wake up call, then I don't know what is. No. Fucking trolls. Yeah. I mean that's the thing. The bottom line is it all goes back to the trolls. But I'm the crazy one. But I'm the crazy one, right? You have psychopaths and criminals surrounding the Delphi murders case calling me the psychopath and the criminal. Makes sense, doesn't it? Project much? The Delphi murders is a doorway into something you don't want to know about. Oh, the IT company. Yes. Yes. Would you type it in the comments? General Dynamics IT? Maybe I can type it. And anyway, with that, guys, I think we'll call it a night. It's rather late. It's good to see everyone here. Thank you so much for being here. If you're on the replay, please leave a comment below so that we know you were here and continue the conversation. We value your input. Also, here's our commercial. Please support the channel in any way you see fit. Hit the like, leave a comment, leave a super chat. We have Cash App. We have all sorts of other ways of or pathways for you to support the channel, and I do appreciate it. We always love the encouraging support that you leave. And anyway, we love you. So thanks for being here. Oh yeah, is that true, Sandy? Do you know some of them? Do you know some of them? You could drop down in the comments. Very educational live, Prof. Hope to hear more in this. Well, thank you, True Justice. You will. This is a series I'm adding to the channel called Deep State Diaries and Discussion with the Prof. So we will be diving into this deep state malignancy and discussing with the chat. So please look out for the next one. And thank you for those kind words, True Justice. And thanks everyone else for being here. Carol and Sandy and Lisa. And everyone who was here earlier. Lambert Coe, thank you for being here. Scott was here earlier. Marianne Foster. All you diehards were here. Bobby Smith was here earlier. Nancy Drew 101. Everyone who's here, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. And hey, wow, this shit, it's deep. It's deep. It's just the tip of the iceberg. And hey, keep a lookout for a new video. And I released a new video. And I'll be making a community post to supplement that video regarding the earrings. And I hope you enjoy that new video there. And the community post that's going to accompany it. So thank you guys for being here. Appreciate that. And hey, let's see if we can get some music going. Let's get some of this.
you.